Hello, welcome back to the rebirth of the confident woman. I was doing some research this week and I had started pondering on this term that I had found, and I want to share it with you on today because I thought it was relevant for many of us women, because sometimes we're a little too hard on ourselves, and so we pretend to be this person that we actually aren't so we can have self-approval and validation. And so I was thinking about how many of us suffer from this psychological pattern in which we have these doubts about our accomplishments, and then this nagging and persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud, as a pretender. And you know what I found out it was called? The imposter syndrome. And I was thinking to myself, like, oh my gosh, I absolutely deal with that at times, especially when I have feats in my life, or where I feel like I'm behind on what I'm supposed to be doing, or not feeling good enough, not feeling like I've done my best when I actually have done my best. But because I'm being so hard on myself, I find myself in this position. And so let me talk a little bit more about that. How do you know? What are the signs and the symptoms that tells you that you're absolutely wrestling or struggling with the imposter syndrome? And so I started digging a little bit, and I found that it first starts with a lack of confidence. And then there's anxiety and doubts, and then you have fear and that tries to infiltrate your thoughts about whether you have the ability, or have you made all the accomplishments or achievements. And then there's that negative talk. Yeah, the negative talk, you shoulda, coulda, woulda, but you didn't. Or you're telling yourself that, why didn't I say that at that time? Or why didn't I do this at that time? Just really hammering down on your self-esteem. And then there's those feelings of inadequacies, and always dwelling on your past mistakes and experiences. And then there's that last one. Yes, not feeling good enough. And so I thought to myself, like, this is a message that I absolutely need to deliver to the women on today, because I was thinking, like, I know someone is struggling with this. I didn't even know what it was called. How sometimes you can't put a name to something, but you know that it is something. And so that's kind of what position I was in. And so I want you to stay tuned. I'm going to talk a little more in detail about this imposter syndrome. And I'm going to talk about 3 areas that I've identified that we absolutely need to know, so we'll know how to deal with it when it emerges. So stay tuned. Okay, so welcome back. The first area that I want to talk about is perfectionism. Perfectionism and imposter syndrome absolutely go hand in hand. Now think about it. A perfectionist is a person that sets these excessively high goals, and then when they fail to reach those goals that they set for themselves, then they start to experience this major self-doubt and worrying about measuring up. But whether they realize it or not, they are control freaks. Yes, if they want something done right, they insist on doing it themselves. Still not convinced? That's you? So let me ask you these 2 questions. The first question: do you find yourself to be a micromanager over people that offer their help in maybe helping you to complete a project or working on something that's very important to you? Or do you find it hard to delegate different tasks to other people that are willing to help you? Or do you pull back and say, you know what, I'll just do it myself, because you have this fear of it not being done correctly? Is that you? And so the next one is Superwoman. And we've all felt at some point that we are invincible, we can do anything, we can soar above any impossibility, any defeat that may occur in our life. And so since these people who experience the imposter syndrome, they find themselves to be phonies among other people when they actually are just as good as they are. So what they do is they work harder and they push beyond their own limits and their own boundaries. And they just so that they can prove that they belong, just so that they can prove that they deserve a seat at the table. But they only do this out of their own insecurities, and they work overtime beyond the time that they supposed to stop. And so, and that oftentimes impact their mental health and their outside relationships, like with home and family and children. And so, still not convinced that's you? Lord, ask yourself this. When you're working, do you work beyond the time that you're asked to, or beyond the time, even after your task is completed, you still work beyond that time, you find something else to do? Or do you find yourself being stressed out beyond your limits just to prove that you can get the work done? Okay, so then there's the last one, that natural genius, that person that is competent in their skill set. They know what they're doing, so they don't even ask for help. They don't even want a mentor. They don't even want a coach, because they feel like that it infringes on their natural ability. Because see, if I ask for help, then that makes me look weak. If I ask for help, then it looks like that I really didn't earn my position, that I really don't deserve to be in this position. I don't deserve to be here. So that's the natural genius, the person that already knows how to do the work. But at times they may have a question. At times they're not sure. But because of that imposter syndrome, because of that lack of self-confidence and that doubt that tries to beat you over the head, and that fear that tries to infiltrate your mind and make you believe that if you ask for help, that they're going to find out that you're really a phony, you're really an imposter, that you're a fraud. And those are all lies. So, what is the remedy for this imposter syndrome? It really is a change of your own mindset. Start finding the triggers for when you feel like that you're in a position where you don't really belong, but you actually do belong. You've earned it. This is your season. This is your time. This is your moment. This is the opportunity that you've been waiting on. So I want you to really think about what triggers me to feel like I am a fraud, that I don't really belong among the best. You are the best. You are great. You are phenomenal. You are awesome. You are courageous. You can do this thing. And then another thing, you have to reframe the way you see yourself in certain settings. You have to reframe your way of thinking. Reframe your train of thought. So this is a really good time to use those self-affirmations and start affirming yourself and believing that you are good enough. And so I hope this really helped you on today, because it helped me once I found out. I was like, oh my goodness, imposter syndrome, that's absolutely me. But it does not have to be me anymore, because guess what? Because I have information and I understand what it is now, because I'm able to identify it. And once I'm able to identify something, I can understand my triggers and my behaviors. And guess what? I can uproot it, and then I can start thinking differently about who I am. Until next time.